Hello and welcome to the Sky Sports Golf Podcast presented by Callaway. It is a celebratory podcast today after a day yesterday for the game's good guys. A life-affirming day for golf.
He's finally done it. It's Tommy's time. The FedEx sign sealed and delivered. Tour champion, FedExCup, 5-year exemption on the PGA Tour, along with $10 million. 164 starts, but now a champion.
Yes, he did it. Tommy Fleetwood at long last, a winner on the PGA Tour and a FedEx Cup champion, no less. Alex Noren is back in the winner's circle after 7 years with victory at the Belfry. Two of the most likeable and popular guys in the game. And we now know 6 of Europe's team for Bethpage a month from now. We have a sneaking suspicion we may actually know all 12 of them, to be honest. But we'll be chatting about Luke Donald's options. We'll have Ryan Lavner on to discuss Keegan Bradley's options when it comes to his picks. Much more of a head scratcher for him, you'd have to say. Later on, we'll be hearing from Justin Rose as he prepares for his 7th Ryder Cup. But before all that, my 2 guests for the first part of today's podcast: victorious Ryder Cup captain, and you may have seen his winning putt as a player in 2002 on the Belfry's 18th green, played back on more than one occasion over the last few days. Paul McGinley, good to see you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Nice to be on. Hello, Rasmus, and congratulations.
Yeah, there he's giving the game away. Paul, my other guest to this morning for today's pod, almost more intriguing than who was actually going to win the British Masters was whether this man could do what he had to do to qualify for the team at Bethpage, and he did, looking far happier and more relaxed than he did for most of that final round. Part of Europe's Ryder Cup team. Hello, Rasmus Hojgaard. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. I am. I'm super excited to be part of that team now. So it's gonna be some good weeks now, and then looking forward to Bethpage.
Look at that big smile. It's great to see. We're going to get straight into it. Europe's 6 automatic qualifiers have been confirmed. They are Rory McIlroy, Bob McIntyre, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Tyrrell Hatton, and the only rookie so far, Rasmus Hojgaard. How does that sound, Raz, to be in that company?
Sounds pretty good.
Just how difficult was it to keep your emotions in check all day yesterday, kind of all 4 days really at the Belfry?
Yeah, it was difficult. It's when you think about it, having to finish the top 29 to get the spot, it's doable. But I probably underestimated a little bit how much thoughts I put into it. But yeah, once I was on the golf course, I felt better than I did away from the golf course, because there was so much time where you get reminded of what's at stake and everything's going on. So it was a stressful week and a long week.
I was just going to jump in there, Jamie. Yeah, I mean, you had a good start to the campaign, a great start to the campaign at the end of last year. You had a lot of points up, and then you lost ground as the year went on. Was there any panic at any stage where you thought, "Oh my God, I'm falling down through the holes here, and I might not make it"? What time of the year was the worrying time for you?
I'd say midway through the PGA Tour season, I was thinking, I can't really keep track at the moment. It seems like everybody else is jumping ahead and playing good golf, and I was struggling to put in some good results. So yeah, I'm not going to say that I totally was out of the race, but I definitely didn't put too much energy into thinking about the Ryder Cup during the middle of the season, and then I started to see some good signs in my game, closer to the Open, and then a few good results from there. Suddenly I'm I was right in there again, and it's giving me a lot of confidence.
One of my favourite videos, Raz, yesterday was just after he's finished his round. Nikolai, he's obviously upset he hasn't won the tournament, but his first reaction is to give his brother a big bear hug, and you can see how happy Nikolai was for you. What's he been like over the last few weeks? Has he been as much a psychologist as he has been a brother?
Yes and no. I think we know each other so well that we know when to say something and when not to
Yeah.
say something. And he hasn't mentioned anything about Ryder Cup the last week because he knew that it was probably not the best thing to bring up during dinner. Even though he loved to talk about it, and I do as well. But we were just trying to get the thoughts away as much as possible during dinners and that. So yeah, he's been great, and it was. Yeah, it was super cool that Nikolai came off 18 there. I wasn't going to show a lot of emotion because I knew he was slightly disappointed that he didn't finish with the birdie or put a little bit of pressure on Alex there. But seeing his smile coming off 18 there was, yeah, that felt good.
Rasmus, this was the first year that we've tried a new qualification system. A lot of the points that you made to qualify for the team were done through the DP World Tour. Um, and obviously, a little bit of review after this Ryder Cup in terms of who the next captain will be and getting ready for it. Do you think the qualification system was fair enough for DP World Tour players, having a combination points between DP World Tour events as well as PGA? Or do you think it needs to be tweaked a little bit?
To be honest, I haven't looked too much into all of that. I've obviously got off to a good start at the end of last year with all the points there, and I haven't from the start of the year until midsummer, I didn't do too much. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'll probably have to think a little bit more about it before I give you an answer on that.
Okay. We'll leave that to Eddie Molinari then. We'll let him have that headache.
It's probably better giving him that question.
He's the man with all the stats in his head. Having been there in Rome, witnessed it all, but not being able to hit a shot, how much of a fire did that light underneath you?
Yeah, that was a very cool experience.
Yeah.
It was cool to see everything up close. I wasn't in the team room that much because I stayed away from that. But seeing how much stuff the guys actually do during the practice days and all of that was, you have to manage the time quite well. I was a bit surprised by that, and yeah, it's a stressful week as well. You don't have a lot of time to work on your game. Not that it's the week where you have to do that, but
Yeah.
I think all the players are very different. With some likes to practice a bit more, and some just hit a few balls and they feel ready. So it's it was good to see how everything worked out between the players and between all the staff. So it definitely gave me some motivation to get myself a chance for the next one.
So what about Bethpage, Rasmus? Have you been there yet? What do you know about it? Luke talked last week. We can talk about it now. It's public, but we're having a practice trip there that you'll be big part of now. And you talk about your preparation and how busy it was in Rome. It won't necessarily be that busy now in Bethpage, and the whole idea of going out early is part of a new way of looking at this away match and preparing differently and giving ourselves a bit more time. So I'm sure you're looking forward and heard a lot about the challenge that Bethpage is. I think you've got a skill set that's really well suited to that golf course.
Yeah, I haven't been to Bethpage. I've watched I watched the PGA there, obviously on TV when Brooks won the tournament there. So it looked like a ball striker's golf course back then for sure. I'm sure the setup would be to be honest, I don't know what the setup would be, if it's going to be any similar or not. But it definitely looks like TG Green. You gotta be sharp. But yeah, that little trip there a few days in advance would be quite cool. Nico had talked a lot about the trip they had to Rome with the whole team, how cool that was. So I'm sure we're gonna have some good days of preparation there, and then maybe ease up the days right before.
I was going to ask you if you've actually even thought about what the Ryder Cup is going to be like, or whether you've been so preoccupied with just trying to get in the team that you haven't actually thought about what it's going to be like to be there in a blue jumper with 11 other Ryder Cup teammates standing alongside you.
I don't know, to be honest. It's it was good for me to see it up close in Rome. But it's gonna be a whole different world when you get to put the right uniform on. and be a part of the team. So I haven't thought too much about it. It's the last few days has been quite stressful. It's just now that I'm really trying to gather my thoughts that I'm going to be in that team.
I'm just going to ask what your schedule is now between now that you've made the team. Have you made any adjustments to your schedule, Rasmus, between now and the Ryder Cup? Will you play Ireland? Will you play Wentworth? Will you play in Switzerland this week?
Well, I'm playing in Switzerland this week. I'm still on the list for Ireland and Wentworth. But yeah, it's something that we're just discussing internally right now. What's the best thing to do? Because I spoke to Thomas Bjorn yesterday, and he said you got to make sure that you have a full tank of energy ready for Bethpage.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that we're discussing.
Well, Thomas knows what it's like to be a winning captain. This man here knows what it's like to be a winning captain as well. And so does Luke. What has the communication been like with Luke throughout the entire process?
Oh, it's been good. It's he's had a nice dinner there at Scottish Open. But every time I've seen Luke, he's been very, very nice. He's always up for a good conversation. And Nicola and I spend a bit of time with him in Florida, trying to pick his brain on certain stuff about his game when he was at his prime and stuff like that. So Luke's been great to me, and I've really enjoyed the conversations I've had with him about not only Ryder Cup but just in general golf.
Paul, just a question for you. How impressive was what this man did yesterday with all the pressure that must have been on his shoulders?
Well, it wasn't just yesterday, Jamie. It was last week as well in Denmark in front of your home crowd. I know you didn't quite get over the line there, but it was a certainly impressive way you played the 18th hole, and the tee shot you hit up 18th was great. And to get a huge check there was important and made this week easier for you. Nonetheless, it still had to be done. As I say, it'll stand to you. I know it was hard at the time, but they're the kind of things that build character to give you confidence. You get confidence from validation, from doing things, and coming through like you have done in the last 2 weeks will give you a huge amount of energy and confidence going into the Ryder Cup. And I can certainly speak from experience. As I said, that happened to me in 2004. I went into the last counting event. There was 2 picks at that stage. Bernard Lange was the captain. I was in 11th place. Freddie Jacobsen was in 10th place. And I had to finish, I think, top 6 or top 7 to knock Freddie out and qualify for the team automatically. I was coming with a late run of form, and I managed to do that and birdie the last hole, which kind of secured it for me. And I went on to have what I believe was my best Ryder Cup then, away from home in Detroit, and it was, a lot of it was because of the confidence that I'd garnered from playing under the heat. I was so nervous that week. It was in Munich. I know exactly what you felt like. My stomach turned 24/7 all week long. And I know exactly what you were going through, even though I was playing well, and even though I knew it was going to be a challenge for me, and it was a big ask to have a top 10 finish to make sure you made the team. But it never, the nerves never left me. I had them 24/7 all week long, but came out the other side and really really felt better about myself, and that resulted in going to Detroit away from home with a lot of confidence.
Absolutely, well said. Raz, before we let you go, just some thoughts on the 2 winners we had either side of the pond this week. As I said at the top of the show, 2 of the most popular guys in the game. First, Alex Noren. I mean, he's no one's got a bad word to say about Alex, and after 7 years out of the winner's circle, he's back in it.
It was awesome to see. I played with him the first 3 rounds, and I could. His game just got better day by day. I mean, the first 2 days he hung in there and was still within reach. And then Saturday he played fantastic shot, 7 under, and then it didn't surprise me with how he played there on Saturday, and obviously Sunday he looked very, very strong. And he's just such a nice guy. I love to hang out with Alex, and he's also a fun guy to pick his brain about golf, because especially short game, and he's fun to be around.
Yeah, and we'll be looking deeper into the Tour Championship after the break, but one of your Ryder Cup teammates, Tommy Fleetwood, finally breaking through in the PGA Tour, and just you could feel the overwhelming love for Tommy yesterday.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch. It was. I'm so happy for him and Finno that they came through on top there. They looked solid there on the back nine. We were sitting in at Belfry, a few guys having a good time, and we had the golf on, and everyone was cheering. So yeah, it was awesome to see Tommy again. Another guy where you can't say anything bad about him. Just such a nice, humble guy. So I'm super happy for both of them. It was cool to watch.
Yeah, it was a great day for golf's good guys. But I'm going to let you go now because Paul and I are going to discuss Luke's options for his 6 picks, and I don't think it's fair to keep you on because your brother may well come up in conversation. But just finally, on that note, I was chatting to Nikolai when I was up at the Belfry last Tuesday. That was before he went on and nearly won the tournament, obviously, but at that point he felt his chances of making the team were gone. Does he still feel that way, and how do you feel about it as well?
It's hard to say. It's because it feels like the team is pretty much set in a way, but yeah, I don't know what's I don't know if Nico's golf last week put some thoughts into Luke and the vice captains. I'm not sure, but yeah, if Nico plays well this week in Switzerland, maybe that could turn things around. But yeah, he's gonna need some good golf this week if it were to happen. But yeah, it was cool to see him, almost get it done now.
Well, if we don't see twins in the Ryder Cup at Bethpage, hopefully we'll see them at Adair Manor in a couple of years' time. Thanks so much for your time today, Raz. Really appreciate it. Massive congratulations. Genuinely just so happy for you. Fully deserved. Can't wait to get out to Bethpage. I'm sure you feel the same. And before then, I'll see you at Wentworth in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Paul, Raz there saying he thinks the team is fairly set. The question now becomes who Luke's 6 picks are. Just from chatting to a number of people, I would say it's looking more than likely that they will be Shane Lowry, Sepp Straka, Victor Hovland, Ludwig Åberg, John Rahm, and Matt Fitzpatrick. Would you go along with that?
I think there's a good chance that will happen. But there's always swings and roundabouts, and you're never going to dismiss something coming out of the blocks this week. We saw Åberg do that last year. But at the moment, it looks that way. It's a pretty settled team. Those players you talked about have all got some decent form coming in here. So it's not like you're having to make a big risk here taking any of those players that you talked about. So it looks pretty settled. And if that is the case, it'll be the same 12 names as we had in Rome. Just the Christian name of one player will be different. I don't think that's ever happened before. You probably know the stats better than me, but
no, never. Yeah.
That will be.
Who would you say is at most? Unique. Who would you say is most at risk of those 6 that I just mentioned, if any?
Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, Fitzpatrick has come with a late run. Shane has been steady without being great. It hasn't been a great summer for Shane, but he has made a lot of points and he's just missed out on the team. Sepp obviously has got a few personal issues the last few weeks. That have kind of unsettled him a little bit, but other than that, he's had a fabulous season. He's one of our top ranking players. Hovland played really well last week, and so did Åberg. Again, 2 real class players with pedigree. So I don't think there's a weakness there. I think Luke. Well, I know I spoke to Luke this morning. He's in good shape. He's confident the way things are coming around. He's happy with the form of the players. There's been a huge amount of communication with all of the players throughout this process. That's getting narrowed down now to almost 12 players. I'd say in another week's time, we'll only have 12 on that list, and communication will then go to another level. And we're looking at this Ryder Cup very differently than we've ever done before in terms of an away match. And the preparation is leaving no stone unturned. We know the magnitude and the difficulty of what we're facing in New York. America are going to be strong. Don't let anybody kind of cod you into believing that they're not going to be strong. They're going to be nothing but strong. It's a very patriotic crowd. It's a very patriotic captain. It's going to be a very noisy atmosphere. It's New York crowds at their best. And there's nothing surer than it's going to be very, very difficult. So we've got to be absolutely on our game. So we have looked at a lot of things differently, Jamie. I'm strategic director now of this, so I sit with Luke and we kind of bounce ideas around along with his vice captains as well too, and we're trying to come at this away match very differently than any away match we've ever come at before. And I think it's fair to say the first throw of the dice that we had in that regard didn't involve Luke, and it was about putting an ex-captain back in play again. If you look back at we've won. We won 3 captains have won away from home in recent times. You've got Jose Maria Lazabal and the Miracle of Medina, and a lot of good things happened in that. But before that, it was it was captains who had already captained before, and Tony Jacklin and Bernard Gallagher, on top of obviously Bernard Langer as well too. So we've taken something from all of those away victories and try to piece it together and create a template for what from home matches should be.
I just wanted you, Paul, to sort of take us into the mindset of a captain, because here's a point I wanted to make. It's very tempting for those watching the golf at home to see Marco Penge win in Denmark or Nikolai come very close to winning yesterday and think they should get a pick. But Luke, and probably in particular Dodo, will have reams of data and statistics compiled over months. They'll have a clear idea of the best course fits, of how players compare together, even as granular as whether they'd be foursomes players and whether they'd tee off in the odds or evens. There is a temptation to read too much into wins and sort of let recency bias cloud your judgment, but they have probably had a plan in place for a long time.
Yeah, they do. And I think it's fair to say as well, if you are a rookie and you're trying to make an away team and you're trying to make it as a pick, you've got to do something really special. You've got to be something really special. And, away picks and away rookies do not perform very well historically, no matter what quality player they are. So it's definitely a bigger risk to choose a rookie for an away match. So that is against them. But there's an algorithm out there that Dodo has got in play, and it isn't live or die by it, but it's a really good indicator of the different skill sets and also what history has taught us. We've learned a lot of lessons from history and how players have performed over the years playing away from home. It's a very different dynamic, Johnny, playing away from home. It takes a different character, it takes a different skill set, and you've got to be a certain type of player in order to perform away from home. We're aware of that. We have a pretty good profile on the kind of player and characters that we want away from home. So if anybody's going to push themselves into it, particularly somebody who hasn't played a Ryder Cup before, they've got to be very special, and they've got to do something very special under the heat.
Because I think an important point also to make is that the likes of Matt Fitzpatrick or Shane Lowry or Sepp Straka, they are playing week in, week out in the strongest fields against the very best American players and in the US. They are battle-hardened campaigners, and that has to count for something.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the guys playing on the PGA Tour have got a big advantage, but what we have now with the 10 cards on the DP World Tour to get onto the PGA Tour, we feel that the DP World players have had a real good opportunity of not just gaining points in DP World Tour events, but also having an opportunity to mix that with playing some more and more events and being qualified to play more events on the PGA Tour. So we feel that it's that it was a fair system that Dodo put in place in terms of the qualifying, fair to everybody. There's no doubt it's tougher coming from the DP World Tour, but then the fields are a lot weaker on the DP World Tour. But nonetheless, looks like one of them certainly has made it in Rasmus. Where he's made most of his points on the DP World Tour.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, well, we will find out who Luke's 6 picks are next Monday. That's the 1st of September. He will be on next week's podcast, so do not miss that one. And we will be asking you, listeners and viewers, if you have any questions you would like us to put to Luke. Now, to one man that we know will be there, brilliant in winning a few weeks ago in Memphis. He'll be playing on his 7th Ryder Cup team, the veteran of the European team. And he was on the scene last night to cheer Tommy home in Atlanta too. I caught up with Justin Rose last week before the Tour Championship. Justin, great win in Memphis a couple of weeks ago. Great to watch. First Tour Championships for you for 6 years. Validation that all the hard work you put in, I know you're one of the hardest workers in the game, is paying off.
Yeah, listen, it is fantastic to be back at East Lake. It's definitely been a huge goal of mine, especially as the season was evolving and, sort of I was earning some points to sort of be into the fray and into the mix for that. But yeah, it's been an interesting year. I think that I've been saying for some time that I feel like my good golf is good enough to compete with the best players in the world. And, I saw that at True and I saw that at the Masters, but there's nothing like getting over the line and actually winning a tournament to kind of really make you believe that that's the case. And I think I needed to see that for myself as well, just to really truly know that I was going 100% in the right direction. And, especially winning in a playoff, given what happened at the Masters again, was extra special for me. And felt like once again, when I really needed my game, it kind of showed up for me, like in the biggest moments, and felt pretty comfortable given the situation too. So those are the things that are hard to train and practice for. Yeah, I do work hard. I am working hard to keep my game as sharp as I can. But yeah, being in contention and those types of feelings, they're hard to simulate. So it's nice just to know that you still got it in those situations for sure. And yeah, East Lake, great to be back. Like you say, 6 years, it's amazing how time does slip on by and fly by. And like I said earlier, once I knew I had a chance to be, obviously I started the playoffs in, I think it was like 25th position or something like that. There's a bit of volatility in the playoffs. I knew I needed to still come in and have a good couple of weeks to make it to East Lake. And yeah, here I am, excited.
And it's the first Tour Championship since you actually won the FedEx Cup back in 2018, where there are no starting strokes. Everyone's starting at level par. Is that a fairer way of doing it?
Yeah, I think it's, obviously for the crowd and for the fans, it's a much more simple sort of a way. Well, listen, obviously the starting strokes were clear, easy to follow, but I think the way Scotty Scheffler's been playing the last few years, he's been playing so strongly that he's taken the volatility out of the tournament, so to speak. And obviously you give a player like him a 10-stroke lead on certain other guys, or certainly even 2 or 3 or 4 shots on other guys that are having a good season. It's just seemed to be too much. So I think the tournament's fallen a little bit flat because of that, because of his brilliant and consistent play. So I think from this point of view, it is quite nice for all of us. Obviously, if you're coming in here in 30th position or 25th or 10th position, it's nice to have a clean slate, and it's such a huge tournament. And I feel like kind of feels nice to have the Tour Championship in a way back as being a very sort of relevant, start from scratch, go ahead and win it type of tournament. Obviously, Tour Championship essentially for the FedEx Cup now.
I was making a comparison the other day of you to another English sporting legend, to Jimmy Anderson, saying that you're aging like a fine wine. You're not showing any signs of slowing down. The body is still holding up. As I said, you seem to keep getting better and better. That must give you so much pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's a great, obviously, role model from that point of view, and had an amazingly long and successful career. And that's what you want to do. You want to play as long as you can be relevant. I think the goal is not just to play and play and play, just to see how long you can string it along. You want to be competitive. You want to be able to feel like you can win. And I think that, I've been fortunate enough to have some great moments in my career where I know what that feels like. And that's still what I'm chasing. And obviously at times there's certain parts of my game that I think are getting better, and there's other elements that obviously are going to become more of a struggle over time. But I think I'm doing a good job of sort of curbing some areas, continuing to push the boundary in other areas, and doing all the things that I can to certainly stay fresh and hungry. I think being hungry is probably the most important thing. And, if you have that enthusiasm and that hunger and that I guess will or drive to try and get better, that's also the love for the game. You need to have that. You need to have that in place, because the minute you lose that, and the traveling gets on your nerves and all these other little things start to add up, that's when I think it's very hard to access your best golf. So fortunately, I still feel hungry and I'm still loving it.
Do you feel as if almost in a way your entire career has been about defying expectations and proving people wrong? The start to your pro career, people will remember. But even now at a stage of your career where people might be saying, oh, well, Justin Rose is in the twilight of his career. Here you are, winning tournaments against the very, very best field, competing in major championships and proving people wrong again.
Yeah, I mean, I think perseverance has always been a word I've tried to associate with myself, for sure. When my back's against the wall, I feel like that's often when I am at my best. I am a bit of a fighter from that point of view, and I think that stems back to the early part of my professional career, where I had no choice other than to fight myself out of a pretty big hole that I dug myself. So, it's always good to prove people wrong, but I kind of don't see it that way. It's not my motivation. My motivation is very much just for me, my family, my team, to keep working hard and keep just being curious at what we can still achieve, and keep setting the bar really high.
And speaking of setting the bar really high, all this recent success means a 7th Ryder Cup is just a few weeks away. How much is winning another Ryder Cup on US soil, near the top of that Justin Rose bucket list to achieve in the career?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the 2025 Ryder Cup at Bethpage has been one that we've been talking about for a decade, it feels like. Ever since it's been announced, it was like, oh, that one's going to be huge. And I feel like just to be a part of it is going to be a special occasion. But, like I've said recently, just being a part of the Ryder Cup isn't what you're there for. You're there to earn points. You're there to support the team. And obviously, hopefully the team can amass the amount of points to get the job done. And to win again on away soil would be, I think Rory mentioned it, he felt one of the biggest achievements in the game of golf. And obviously home course advantage has proven so key in the Ryder Cup in the last sort of couple of decades. And it's really only been Medina that's gone against the grain. So from our point of view, that's a wonderful opportunity to try to sort of go ahead and buck that trend. And I think, the European team is in a good position. I think the guys that are on the team, it's looking like being a very similar team to Rome. So a lot of experience in there, which I think is what you need for an away Ryder Cup. And then the form is looking quite good. Obviously, we're still a month away. A lot can change in form, but for the most part, the guys have had really, really consistent seasons. And I'm sure Luke's got to be pretty happy about the way it's all beginning to piece together.
As you said, I mean, it could literally be the same 12 surnames as Rome. It could be Rasmus subbed in for Nikolai. That, plus the fact it's Luke and Dodo and the same backroom team. Does that give Europe a bit of a head start? Does it put them a little bit ahead of the 8 ball?
I don't know if it gives us a head start, but it definitely will feel... It'll feel consistent. It'll feel comfortable. And I think we're in amongst all the other stuff that's going to feel very uncomfortable for us in New York. I think having that comfortable feeling within the team locker room could be really, really important. Yeah.
And your role in Rome, or one of your roles in Rome, was to sort of help Bob, who was a rookie at the time. Bob, obviously now, fast forward 2 years, is a multiple winner in the PGA Tour and has elevated his game to another level. So that won't be required of you this time. What will your role be this time?
Oh, Bob can help me this time. Help get me around the golf course. No, I think I don't know what my role will be, to be honest with you. Like I said, the team could be a very balanced team, a very experienced team. So there might be less requirements in terms of the rookies and things like that. But obviously in a away Ryder Cup, we're going to need a steady pair of hands all over the team. Do you know what I mean? I think we're going to all be looking to each other to be... There's going to be a lot of solidarity required. So just leading by example again, as best you can. And obviously earning points. I think my game is probably in a better spot than it was in Rome. So there might be different requirements asked of me. I'm not sure. Last time in Rome, I only played the 2 4-balls and a singles. So, I'd like to get out a little bit more than that if possible this time around. And we'll see. I haven't really kind of got that far ahead. Obviously, for me it was... Okay, making the team was, by rights, not being picked was obviously a huge thrill in the last couple of weeks. So, been enjoying that. But I think once I'm through this Tour Championship and FedEx Cup, I feel like then it's time to turn my attentions to everything that's going to be required of me in the Ryder Cup.
One consistent message I've heard from everybody I've spoken to is that the communication from Luke has just been outstanding. There's been constant dialogue. You've been made to feel so valued. And the one thing that shone through from Rome was the togetherness of that team. It felt like a family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also the work that Luke puts in, day out, the consistency of his messaging, the people that he's giving us access to, the people that he's been talking to. You can just tell the sort of the personal growth actually that he's gone through as an individual and as a person has helped him become an amazing leader. So the work he's put in is second to none. And I think just that sort of filters down throughout the team really. But like you said, just the consistent messaging and the communication has been first class.
Speaking of leaders, some Ryder Cup legends, Sam Torrance, Ian Wisdom, Sandy Lyle, Sir Nick Faldo, were all asked last week, who do you see being the next captain? Who do you see being the captain in a dare manner? Before the question could even be completed, Sam Torrance said Justin Rose. He'd been an incredible leader. People had run through brick walls for him. He's an amazing human being. I'm sure that's all very flattering to hear, but you must be thinking, I have got no plans of hanging up the playing boots anytime soon.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think if we were to sort of go back a couple of years and think about, what's the pipeline of European Ryder Cup captains, I felt like that was a potential thought process for sure, and it could well still be a potential thought process. And I think 2027 still feels like a long time away, right. But I think all of us need to probably have a sit down afterwards and just understand what's best for the team, because that's the most important thing first and foremost. And I think also what I've learned by watching and observing Luke is how much hard work it takes. And the Ryder Cup captain doesn't start in 2027. It pretty much starts sometime in 2026. So yeah, you're right. Like, where's my game going to be? How much commitment do I have for, where are my priorities with that? So yeah, you're absolutely right. So to answer your question, it's so nice that my name's even being put in the conversation and in consideration. And obviously, should the opportunity arise one day at the right time, absolutely, I'd love to do the job. And we shall see. But obviously also, I think kind of what's going to be best for the team. I think step up and serve what everybody collectively thinks would be a good idea. I'm happy to be a team player from that point of view as well.
Well, I think we can say with a degree of certainty you will be captain one day, but that leads me on to what is a particularly hot topic at the moment. You talk about the work that Luke has put in. Can you do both? Can you be a playing captain?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Obviously, I know we're alluding to Keegan, and I think that Keegan's probably given himself a bigger problem than he thought at the time. Obviously, he accepted the captaincy because what an honour it is, and who wouldn't accept it, of course. He's a fiery guy, he's a great competitor, and then all of a sudden he's seventh in the world and playing great golf. And, the best way to win the Ryder Cup for him is to get to 14.5 points. And he's got to weigh up whether he can add 2 or 3 or 4 points personally to that tally, or, or how he's going to feel like the whole week sort of weighs on him. So yeah, at the end of the day, if he plays, he's got to earn points, and if he doesn't play, he's got to feel like his strategy is going to also earn points. So it's probably one of the biggest captain's decisions that's to be made, is whether he puts himself in, and obviously if he does put himself in, therefore he needs to step up and earn the points. So he's put himself in a great position, because to have those options is awesome. And I'm sure he's obviously probably created a backroom staff around him that have been rallying and ready to sort of scoop up the responsibility should he decide to play. So he'll be captain in name and stature, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of people ready to do the legwork around him.
Well, I think I can speak for everybody and say all European fans are delighted to have you back in the team, Justin. Cannot wait for the Ryder Cup. Congratulations on the win in Memphis. It was great to watch, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks at Wentworth.
Yeah, thanks for all the support, and can't wait to be back home soon. Cheers, guys.
Welcome back to the Sky Sports Golf Podcast presented by Callaway. Great to hear from Justin Rose just before the break. Paul McGinley still with me, and we've been joined by Ryan Lavner from the Golf Channel. Hello, Lav. Great to see you. How are you doing today?
Great to see you guys. Excited to talk Ryder Cup as we get near Bethpage in about a month's time.
Yeah, we will be talking a bit about that. Obviously, we're going to look back in the Tour Championship and also head to Keegan Bradley's 6 picks, which are kind of inextricably linked, so there will be some overlap between the two. Keegan announcing his 6 picks on Wednesday. We'll bring you a bonus pod actually after that. I'll be speaking to Keegan and getting reaction to his picks from Brad Faxon. But before we get to his quandary, Lav, let's talk about the winner of the Tour Championship. The long wait is over. Tommy is a winner stateside, and I struggle to think of many more popular wins.
No, I completely agree with you. I made the point to Rex Hojgaard on our podcast on Sunday Night for Golf Channel that the Tommy Fleetwood story was basically the Rory Masters narrative, just writ small. Like, here is a player who is massively successful, 7-time winner on the European Tour, Ryder Cup hero, clearly, indisputably one of the best players in the world, who just had failed to get across the line. And the fact that it was resonating with a greater sports audience. Here in the States, you had LeBron James, Caitlin Clark, so many other countless athletes, tapping in to check and see what Tommy Fleetwood was going to do as he tried to pick up his first career PGA Tour victory. The fact that that was resonating with a greater sports audience was because that this was a very human story of trying and failing. People want to see how you respond to adversities and obstacles. I would argue that Tommy Fleetwood is perhaps the best example the PGA Tour has ever seen of showing grace under duress, having perspective, having a positive attitude, not being defined by his failures, but instead using them as motivation. I think that's why, Jamie, you could make the case that Tommy Fleetwood is probably the third most popular player on the PGA Tour right now, behind Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, because he showed grace under very difficult circumstances, and he's just a hell of a player. He's got a lot of game, and there's just a lot to like about Tommy Ladd.
I think that's a big part of it, Paul, isn't it? He is so human, and he's so giving of his time, and he's just such a likable guy, and hopefully, a weight now is lifted from his shoulders.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he kicks on from here. And I mean, it was great that he got over the line, and to take out the quality players that he did in terms of the field that was there that week. And it was a great story, and he's a hell of a player. He knows that. Butch Harmon he's coaching him now, and Butch has been talking to me in the last couple of months about how well Tommy has been practicing. So he certainly was on his game. I think last week the separation for him was the fact he putted so well. He outputted everybody in the field by quite a long ways last week, and that was the difference. I think he was also aided a little bit on Sunday that 3 of his biggest adversaries out there, for one reason or other, kind of flatlined a bit. Scottie Scheffler had a ball in the water on top of a ball out of bounds. That doesn't happen in one round. You had Patrick Cantlay shooting one over par. We wouldn't have expected that. And then you had Henley as well too, finishing almost dead last and putting on day 4. So that does help. But you need a little bit of luck as well to get over the line. And Tommy did well. He shot under par. He did what he had to do, and he controlled it down the last 6-7 holes. I think it was very important that he had that lead built up of 2 or 3 shots there coming into that closing stretch. And because not alone did it give him a little bit of leeway in terms of making a bogey, he still had control, but more importantly, it put pressure on the chasing pack to try to hunt birdies and force them to maybe make the mistakes that they wouldn't normally have made.
God knows Tommy deserves a bit of luck. I think back to Nick Taylor holding a putt in a playoff from 70 feet in Canada or something. It's about time Tommy was on the flip side of getting some good luck. Let's hear from him now. Nick Doherty and Beamer were left waiting for quite a bit of time while he had an inordinate number of official photos taken, but he eventually did make it to the Sky Cart.
Well, we're keeping you in because you've given him the best possible birthday present.
You have.
Ever.
I'm going to be celebrating all night long. There's no doubt.
Tommy, it's hard to know where to start with it. I'm not even going to ask you what it means. What I want to know is, does it feel like you thought it would feel?
There's a ton of feelings, and I think it doesn't sink in straight away. Of course, it doesn't. I've won, plenty of tournaments before. I still don't feel like I've won my fair share, but this one, it seems like it's taken a long time, and I think the story has been building for so long. And there's a lot of mixed emotions. I think very proud of the qualities I've had to show in recent weeks to keep coming back. Very relieved that it's done. That I've got this first win and I can move on and hopefully win many more. Like I've always said, I don't really dream of winning one. I feel like I want to win multiple and plenty, but to do that you got to win the first one. And also it's kind of like story was great, wasn't it?
It was great.
Yeah, it was good.
It might be it might be a bit like Rory the Grand. We might now be like, what's the story now? Tommy wins all the time.
Well, the thing was, it was going to be a long time to wait for the PGA Tour, wasn't it? So I had to get them now.
Okay, so Tommy wins the Tour Championship, fine, but the history books will also show he is the FedExCup champion and not the world number 1 who won 5 times this year, including 2 majors. So is that a problem, Lav?
I think it is a problem, and it's a problem that the PGA Tour has acknowledged, and it's a problem that the PGA Tour is setting out to address. The new CEO of the PGA Tour, Brian Roloff, was very clear in his press conference with reporters last week at the Tour Championship that the PGA Tour is going to be looking very hard in how they can have better connectivity between the regular season and the postseason on the PGA Tour. They're going to have this future competitions committee, which is going to be headed by Tiger Woods, and have a sort of a sampling of journeyman players, business executives, trying to come up with a better plan. Because in my opinion, the players clearly stated that they did not like the staggered start. Rory McIlroy was sort of my line of thinking as well, that it at least provided some advantage for the number 1 player heading into the season finale, but the majority of players didn't like it. This, to me, felt like the easiest, laziest way to get rid of him and just having a regular 72-hole stroke play tournament. It's hard for me to sit here right now following the Tour Championship and be all up in arms about Sky Scheffler was clearly the best player in 2025, but Tommy Fleetwood will be recognized as the FedExCup champion because the PGA Tour has made clear this is just a bridge year. This is not here to stay. The format is going to be changing, and so that's sort of where I land on it.
We all love Tommy, so it's hard to be up in arms for that reason as well. But Paul, my question to you is, I must have read or watched about 5 different things this last week with people suggesting how to, quote unquote, fix the Tour Championship. Here is a question. What is wrong with just crowning the champion before the final event? We've got no issue in this country with Liverpool wrapping up the Premier League title with 5 games to spare. Is it an American issue that it has to come down to some kind of finale, some Super Bowl at the end?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's all about creating a narrative and trying to create excitement. You've got another sports in America and they're trying to recreate it in golf. I don't envy the job that Brian Roloff has got. I think there's a lot of challenges out there. And I don't think he's got as much leverage as he thinks he has. The players are very much in control and can veto a lot of the ideas that he may have. It's a player-led tour. It's a members organization, unlike lots of other sports. And he's going to soon find out when he goes in there that he doesn't have control of all the things he wants to have control of, and that the players can can kind of force him to go in directions that he might necessarily want to go in. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands with it all, and interesting to see what ideas he comes up with, and more importantly, what ideas he gets passed by the players.
I better give you a Ryder reply on that one, Lav. Why can't you
No, I
Americans
think-
just get your head around the concept of a champion with a few weeks to go?
No, I think Paul's exactly right. And one of the problems that the PGA Tour has always had with the FedEx Cup, which was implemented back in 2007, is that they're trying to shoehorn two different things into one, right? They're trying to crown a season-long champion, and they're also trying to have a really fun, compelling season finale. Putting those things together, we're in year 19 of the FedEx Cup. It clearly isn't working to try and do that and trying to have it all in one. The solution that I've seen circulated the most, and the one that I most agree with, is crown the FedEx Cup champion after the Wyndham Championship, the final regular season event of the PGA Tour season, and then do something entirely different for the postseason. Have a true playoff, and you can have any different format you want. You can have a cut down based on just the leaderboard. You can implement a 16-man match play bracket at the end if you really want to. You can get fun and you can get creative that way and do something entirely different. But that's the key. It has to be different from the season-long champion, because trying to do two things at once, clearly in year 19, is just proving too difficult for these guys to figure it out.
Yeah, well, we wait to see with bated breath what that will be. But congratulations again, Tommy, carrying on the theme of 2025, which is long sporting droughts being ended. In football, we had Newcastle, Crystal Palace and Spurs all winning trophies after a long wait. In Formula One, Nico Hülkenberg finishing on the podium for the first time at the 239th attempt. And in golf, Rory ending an 11-year wait for a major, 25-year wait for another member of the Grand Slam club. Now Tommy ending his long wait. The only thing left is for a first away Ryder Cup win in 13 years, which leads us on, Lav, to the problem that Keegan Bradley has now, because we're going to get into his dilemma. Firstly, a reminder to everyone that 6 of the US Ryder Cup side have been confirmed. They are Scotty Scheffler, JJ Spawn, Xander Schauffele, Russell Henley, Harris English and Bryson DeChambeau. 7th, 8th and 9th in the standings are Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa and Ben Griffin. Kind of expected that all 3 of them will get picks. Would you go along with that, Lav?
I think 2 of those 3 are locks. I would throw Patrick Cantlay in the category of being a lock. I think Cam Young should be a lock based on what he has done and obviously the course history. Sam Burns based on what he has done over the past couple of weeks. To me, Ben Griffin, if you're looking at those 7, 8, and 9, to me, he's the player who's feeling the most pressure as we sit here just a couple hours out from Keegan Bradley making his choices.
You're fast forwarding getting to all my next questions because I was going to get to Patrick Cantlay and Cam Young. What would you say, first of all, Paul, about those 3, Thomas, Morikawa, Griffin? Any of them at risk, or are they all pretty much locked in on their form and their past Ryder Cup records?
I don't know. It's very hard to speak for the Americans, and you don't know what kind of a mindset or where they're coming from. I know there is a changing of the guard going on. I know they're trying to look at things differently. I know they went left field with the choice of Keegan as captain. The guy who's not showing a lot of form, who hasn't had a whole lot of form really since certainly March, has been Morikawa. I know he's a hell of a player. We know that, and a double major champion and a brilliant iron player, and should be a very good fit for foursomes in particular. But his form of all of those players you talk about is pretty moderate, you'd have to say. He would be the one. I mean, but look, it's hard to pick. It really is hard to choose. You don't know what way Keegan is thinking. You don't know what way he's thinking on partnerships, and it's hard to preempt or kind of talk over him in terms of what ideas he might have, because everybody sees it differently. There is no one way of captaining. I've said this a number of times, and I know my captaincy went well, and but that doesn't mean that everything I did should be copied. That's the only way to do it. There's far different ways of doing it, and it'll be interesting to see what he does. Ryan, do you think he's going to pick himself? I mean, that's the big question everybody is asking.
That's the big question. I just spoke with Rex, who was out at the Tour Championship all week, and said he said he basically waffled every day. Keegan spoke to reporters every single day after the Tour Championship. One day it sounded like he was going to pick himself. The next day he wasn't going to pick himself. At the same time, he said that nothing that happened at East Lake was really going to deter him from the process and what they'd sort of established as a leadership team. And he basically just needed to go through the formalities of making the choice. it's really difficult for me to see Keegan Bradley picking himself as we sit here following the conclusion of the FedEx Cup season. Keegan himself has admitted he has had a really difficult time detaching himself from the situation over the past month and a half, particularly since he won that Travelers Championship, of juggling everything that goes on with the captaincy while also trying to play his best golf. If you fast forward then to the week of the Ryder Cup and the matches at Bethpage Black, that is going to be on steroids. That's going to be multiplied, the amount of stress and the amount of pressure. You look at data golf and any other analytics, he's not one of the 12 best Americans, not right now. He's not trending better than any of the other players that he'd be picking himself over. It's really difficult for him to foresee a scenario in which he's calling a Ben Griffin or a Sam Burns or a Cameron Young and saying, sorry guys, you didn't do enough. I'm going to put myself on this team. To me, it's just too awkward, and the data is just not in his favor right now.
Well, listen, before we say anything else on this, you talk about him sort of talking in circles when he faced the media all this last week. This is what he had to say at the end of his Saturday round at Eastlake.
Yeah, it's a really strange thing to kind of ponder, making the picks and then thinking about picking yourself. It's like ridiculous. Like doesn't seem like reality sometimes, but we're going to do the best we can to make the right decision. And it's going to be controversial to certain people either way. Like I'm prepared for that. I'm confident with whichever decision I make is for the betterment of the team, and we'll see.
I also want to read this social media post from President Donald Trump. Keegan Bradley should definitely be on the American Ryder Cup team as captain, 3 exclamation marks. He is an amazing guy. It will be a great Ryder Cup at the invite of the PGA Tour. I will be there on Tournament Friday. President DJT. Lav, Keegan strikes me as the kind of fist-pumping, patriotic American who actually will love something like that from the president. Can Keegan resist the temptation when he sees something like that?
I certainly think he should if he's looking out for the betterment of Team USA. I don't think President Trump was necessarily looking at potential pairings or the ramifications of what a playing captain at the Ryder Cup could be and what that could involve.
Paul, I appreciate you were sort of at a different stage of your playing career when you were captain, and that it wouldn't even have entered your head that it was a possibility. But do you think it's possible to do both, to be the best captain you can be and also go out and play, potentially 3 rounds of golf over the course of Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah, I'm not going to dismiss it. Absolutely not. I mean, if you're really well organized, I think it is possible. And I think to be organized, you need organization with your vice captains, strong vice captains. You need to have a real good plan. To be honest, most of the work that I felt there, certainly when I was captain, Jamie, was done pre the match itself. And what you're doing then is you're monitoring your plan as the week unfolds. So if you have a really, really good plan in place, I think it is possible. I think the difficulty is remaining concentrated and not getting distracted when you are out there as a player. But I thought it was quite interesting this morning, guys, that and this is a late announcement that America announced this morning that the format of play would be foursomes in the morning and then 4-ball in the afternoon. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I thought it was, first of all, it was a late announcement, and it was kind of unusual that it would be announced the day after the qualification pretty much closed in America. That was the first thing. And then the second thing that made it interesting for me was if Keegan is going to play, that format of playing foursomes in the morning and 4-ball afternoon is the way to do it. So he would exclude himself from the foursomes in the morning. So he's not getting up early and rushing around and trying to get out in the golf course. He's able to motivate the players around breakfast time, have a chat with them on the range, kind of mosey around his morning, get the foursomes well underway. There's a plan then for who's going to play in the afternoon. That will be in place. And then, a good 2 hours before his tee time, then he can kind of remove himself away from captain's duties of being out there watching and try to get into the mindset of being a player. And he only needs to do that once each day. So he will play 3 matches out of the 5 as a captain. So I'm not going to rule out that it's not possible. I think if you're really well organized, you can. It does take a huge amount of concentration, a huge amount of compartmentalization, something he talked about last week, and he feels he's done a pretty good job on that. So, I don't think I certainly wouldn't dismiss it, put it that way. I wouldn't dismiss it. I think it's difficult, but I wouldn't dismiss it.
That scenario, Lav, that Paul outlines there only works if plan A is going according to plan, doesn't it? Because how is Keegan able to monitor all 4 of those morning foursomes matches if he's trying to prepare for an afternoon match himself and ride a hot hand? And if somebody that he put out together, they thought, oh, they're a guaranteed point, and they've actually laid an egg. He's not able to monitor all of that. He's probably not able to walk all 18 holes in the morning either, and then get ready for an afternoon match.
No, I think it's a great observation that Paul had there. And keep in mind, last year at the President's Cup, of which Keegan Bradley was a member as a captain's pick on Jim Furyk's squad, he played exclusively in the 4-balls competition. I know it's sort of apples and oranges comparison to the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup, but that was the only format that he played. His partner in those matches was Wyndham Clark, who is obviously not going to be a part of this year's Ryder Cup squad. I do think, and obviously Paul outlined it well, of you can round up the team, you have a couple hours break, then you start readying yourself. The issue is going to be what happens sort of late in that 4-ball session, because he's going to have to make the announcement of his lineup for the following day as well. And so can you completely shut off, the captaincy part of your brain, or can you completely delegate that to a Jim Furyk, a Brandt Snedeker, a Kevin Kisner, and the like, or are you still so distracted by your own match and trying to win a point desperately for the home side that you're not of two minds and what needs to be obviously of the utmost focus, just like every other 11 player on that U.S. team. No one else is dealing with this sort of baggage. No one else is dealing with this sort of distraction. Again, it feels like a potentially unfair scenario for Keegan Bradley to put himself in.
I spoke to Brandt Snedeker at the Belfry last week, Lav, and obviously he was keeping his cards pretty close to his chest, but he was saying, look, we have a really open and honest dialogue. All the assistant captains and Keegan will sit together. We'll outline who we think should be picked and why, etc., etc. If Keegan is seriously considering picking himself, are any of his assistant captains strong enough to say to him, we think that would be a mistake. We don't think you should be doing that?
I mean, he certainly has sought the advice of Tiger Woods, who, keep in mind, was a playing captain in 2019 President's Cup. I think, obviously, the onus is going to be on Keegan Bradley. He can rely heavily on Jim Furyk, a guy who's been there and done that. He can rely heavily on Brandt Snedeker, who was part of the backroom staff last year at the President's Cup, is going to be leading his own American side, Gary Woodland, Kevin Kisner, and the like. Webb Simpson as well. It's ultimately going to come down to what Keegan Bradley thinks is the best possible scenario for Team USA. You would hate to think, with all of the built-in advantages that a home team has and a home team hosting the Ryder Cup, there's a reason why Rory McIlroy said that winning an away Ryder Cup right now is the toughest thing to do, not just in golf, but perhaps in all of sport. You would hate to think that you would potentially jeopardize that and just welcome all of this distraction and all of this risk if you did not think it was the best thing for Team USA. I'm sure his assistant captains are telling him he can do it. I'm sure some of the players on the U.S. roster are telling him that he can do both. Yeah. Ultimately, only Keegan Bradley knows how he functions best, and does he think he can handle the week of distractions, trying to be a player and also trying to be the captain.
Paul, regardless of whether he picks himself or he doesn't, do you think all the uncertainty surrounding Keegan's willy won't he has been disruptive for the US team? Europe's got a captain who's been in place for over 3 years. As we were sort of saying earlier, we're probably going to have the same 12 surnames playing for the side as well, whereas there is so many question marks looming over the US team. Do you think it's been disruptive for their whole side? Is the captain going to play or not?
I don't think so, and there's no evidence to think that it has been. If you look at the players that have really come into form and pushed themselves over the line the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's got guys like Young and Burns. Even last week, Cantlay, Griffin's played quite well. So you've got a number of players who have made a dash for a line, and they don't seem to be distracted. I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, I think we're at times of high emotion in America, politically. The pride in the jerseys, we say over here, and the pride in the nation. He's a very patriotic guy, as you mentioned earlier. I think there's going to be a lot of emotion from the New York crowd. I think he's just the way Tommy Fleetwood is really popular with our crowd. I think Keegan wears his heart on his sleeve, and people resonate to that. They like it, and they have an affinity towards him. And I think he's going to be a very, very popular captain. He's easy to like. And I think the crowds are going to like it and going to galvanize behind him. And he also seems to have a very good relationship with his team around him, with his backroom team, and reading between the lines. That looks to be a pretty strong dynamic too. So, I think it's certainly folly on our side if we're thinking that, America are a bit disheveled, they're all over the place, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know if they're coming or going, they don't know if the captain's going to be there. I think that is a very, very dangerous territory there, and I can tell you that for certain that is nowhere near the mindset of Luke Donald, and he's certainly given that to the players. We are not going to underestimate the magnitude of this challenge, and it's also an American team, as we've outlined here already, that have found quite a bit of form in the last 4 weeks. 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were a lot giddier than we are now in terms of where the American team was. I think a lot of the American players have come into form, have showed some strength over the last 4 or 5 weeks, including Keegan taking out Tommy there in that head-to-head. So they're in a better spot than they were 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I think there's a bit of energy about them because of this debate. I think it's giving them energy, it's giving fuel, it's creating a lot of debate in the media, it's creating a lot of debate in the public, and that's all positive when you're playing at home, because you want to stoke the fire, you want people's emotions at a high pitch, and I think all of this stuff that's being talked about at the moment is stoking emotion, and that's going to be a big part of what Keegan is going to try to do in terms of playing the crowd.
Final word to you, Lav, then. What does your gut tell you? Who are the 6 picks?
My gut tells me the 6 picks are Justin Thomas, Kyle Morikawa, Ben Griffin, Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Young, and Sam Burns. In my opinion, because Keegan Bradley is not a slam dunk pick, he's not head and shoulders, he's not an obvious choice over any of those would-be contenders, it should be easier for him to leave himself off. In my opinion, it's been very confusing why they're even trying to potentially force this when there's so many other elements stacked up against it. It just comes with so much risk, so much distraction, so much pressure to perform, so many built-in advantages, as Paul knows, with a home team. I still think Keegan Bradley can be a galvanizing force without being a playing captain. I think he has an opportunity to be a great captain specifically, and let the other 12 players go out and compete sort of uninhibited by the other responsibilities that Keegan might have.
We shall see. My gut instinct is he picks himself, but what do I know? I know nothing at all. Other news in the world of golf this last week, sticking with the theme of feel-good victories in the world of golf, Brooke Henderson won her home open, the Women's Canadian Open, a final round 68, enough to win by a shot from Minjee Lee. Her second Canadian Open, her first victory in more than 2.5 years, actually. The LPGA head to Massachusetts for the FM Championship this week. The PGA Tour season is done, of course. Their fall season starts up soon enough, though, in Napa in a couple of weeks, when 11 of the 12 US team, we believe, will tee it up, all bar Bryson. On the DP World Tour, it is the Omega European Masters at stunning Crone, Montana this week. A final chance, perhaps, to impress Luke Donald, or has he decided on his 6 picks already? That does us for today. Thank you to all my guests today, to 2 of the European team for Bethpage, Justin Rose and Rasmus Hojgaard, also to Paul and to Ryan. Thank you, gents, for joining me.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jamie.
If you've liked what you've heard or watched today, do make sure you give us a follow on Apple or Spotify, wherever you get your pods. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. A huge thank you, as always, to Callaway for sponsoring the podcast. As I said, we will have a bonus pod coming your way midweek when I'll be chatting to US Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley. Will he be a playing captain, though? It is the question we all cannot wait to find out. And on next week's pod, we have the European captain Luke Donald on to reflect on his 6 picks. Very much looking forward to that, and looking forward to you all joining us then for it.